From Singidunum to Belgrade. Long, long ago, long before your grandmothers and grandfathers were born, a boy with a very unusual name, Singi Celt, arrived at a location close to today's Belgrade, along with his big family. His mother, Fiona Celt, and father Felon Celt, as well as all of Singi's brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, cousins, and many neighbours, had left a cold region in search of a better place to live. They travelled for days, months, maybe even years, arriving one spring morning right here where us Belgraders live today. But at that time, Belgrade did not exist. There were no houses, buildings, streets or bridges. The Sava and Danube rivers were surrounded by green meadows, gentle hills, and forests where deer, wolves, and squirrels roamed freely. There were 1,000 colours and 1,000 sounds. But what struck the Celt family most was the smell. They stood on the edge of a hill and breathed in the morning air. The yet-to-be-built Belgrade had a strong scent of wonderful, red strawberries. Today you can buy strawberries at any market in the spring, as long as you haven't already spent all your pocket money on ice creams and sweets. But in Singi's time, strawberries were few and far between. More importantly, it was the first time that Singi and the Celts had ever seen them. They picked them, carefully smelled them, and then ate them. Their stomachs hurt from how much they ate, but it was worth it because they were so tasty. And because of that delicious red fruit, the Celts decided to stay in this place. Of course, Singi, like every child today, wanted his own strawberry garden just for himself and his friends. So he needed to build his own little fortress to protect the sweet strawberries from the adult world, and so that the children would all have a special place for their fun and games. Stone by stone, Singi's fortress grew every day. Singidunum, Singidunum, cried the children, running around this great new building, entering its gate, and leaping over the walls by clinging to a thick rope tied down on the inside. The Celts did not speak Serbian, and called Singi's fortress Adunum. Singi's fortress, or Singidunum, became a safe place for Singi and his friends. Adults could only enter the gate if the children opened it for them. When one of the kids was in trouble with their parents, they would just run off into Singidunum, while their friends would pull on the ropes inside, quickly closing the gate and locking it with a huge log. They would stay in the fort, feasting on delicious red strawberries until their parents' anger had passed. Everyone was well aware of how precious this Singidunum was, and guarded it with the hearts of brave knights. Centuries passed. People all over Europe spoke of the strawberries, the Sava, the Danube, and Singidunum, and many people wanted to live in this place. Another era slowly dawned. The Roman army embarked on great conquests, and one spring they reached today's Belgrade. Ruthlessly, the Romans demolished Singi's fortress with a huge stone and drove all of the Celts from today's Belgrade. The children cried as they left behind the fragrant fields of strawberries, and the Romans began to build a newer, bigger fortress in the place that the old one once stood. Oddly, the new inhabitants continued to call the new fortress Singidunum, just like the Celts once did. It would be a long time before Belgrade would be given the name it still bears today. Centuries passed once more, and various peoples arrived and left, until finally, one winter, our great-great-great-great-grandparents arrived in Singidunum. But there was no scent of strawberries, which were hidden under a thick blanket of snow. Instead, everything was white. The Danube and Sava, the meadows, hills and forests, Dragutin Slav, Uglisha Slav, Borica, Dushica, Kata, and other Slavs stood on the edge of that very same hill where Singi and his family had once stood, and admired the whiteness of the snow. It was one completely white city, or Belgrade. I'm sure you can now guess how Belgrade got its name. The Slavs continue to live in our Belgrade right up to the present day. It doesn't matter if our last name is Chiric or Pusic, if we support Crvena Zvezda or Partizan, if we go to kindergarten or school, or where we spend our summer holidays. We are all the great, great, great grandchildren of those Slavs who named our city Belgrade. But things have changed a great deal since back then. The fortress still remains today, although it has been destroyed and rebuilt many times over by the Slavs and those who wanted to take it from us, the Turks and the Austrians. Today at Belgrade Fortress, children ride bicycles and rollerblade, go on school visits, play games. But our Belgrade no longer smells like strawberries at all. They were trampled by the armies, and streets and buildings were built everywhere. Nowadays, there are almost no meadows at all. So, quickly, find a nice spot in your yard or in the woods, and plant strawberries wherever you can, so that next spring, Belgrade will once again smell like it used to.